What if I told you that you could explain the entire universe, everything from the tiniest atom to the biggest ideas, with just three concepts? Well, today, we're diving into a philosophical framework that claims to do exactly that. It's a journey that starts with the world we can see and touch and takes us all the way to a single ultimate source for, well, everything. So here's our roadmap. We're going to follow the author's logic step by step. First up, we'll look at what they say are the three basic elements of the universe. Then, we'll see how those elements snap together to create the physical world. From there, we'll trace it all back to its original source. And finally, we'll explore the moral code this framework lays out, which all leads to a simple but really powerful test for everything.
All right, let's start with the absolute foundation. According to the author, these are the three fundamental building blocks of all reality. According to this way of thinking, it all comes down to these three pillars. You've got consciousness, which is seen as the ultimate source. Then there's structure, which is the physical form of things. And finally, energy, the formless power that fills everything. Now get this. The author's central claim is that these aren't just cool ideas. They are supposedly the only eternal and fundamental things in the entire universe. Okay, so we have these three elements, but how do they actually work together? Let's dig into that relationship between structure and energy and see how they team up to create the world we actually experience.
So, what do they mean by structure? Think of it as the unique blueprint for, well, for anything and everything. It's the reason you can spot your friend in a huge crowd or why you can tell the difference between a rose and a daisy. It's what gives everything its distinct shape and identity. And here's where it gets really interesting. The text argues that energy on its own is basically potential. It's formless, it's invisible. It only becomes a thing, something you can actually see and interact with, when it's poured into a specific structure. So the structure is like the mold, and energy is the material that fills it. The author gives a great biological example to make this point. Think about a tiger's stomach. Its structure is perfectly designed to pull energy out of meat. Now, a cow's stomach, it has a totally different structure, one built to process grass. In both cases, the specific structure determines the exact type of energy, or food, that it can use.
And this idea isn't just for animals. The author says the same principle works in agriculture. A smart farmer knows you have to rotate crops, right? That's because different plants have different structures that are designed to pull different nutrients, different energies from the soil. One needs more nitrogen, another needs more phosphorus. The core idea is always the same. Structure dictates the energy it needs.
This brings us to a really crucial question. If structure is the blueprint for everything we see, then where do all these infinitely different blueprints come from? Who's the architect here?
I mean, just think about it for a second. Who designs the incredible variety of skyscrapers that make up a city's skyline? Or the constantly changing styles of fashion we wear? What about the thousands upon thousands of different products you see lining the shelves of a supermarket? Well, according to this text, the answer isn't our hands, or our tools, or our factories. The real source, the true creator of all these man-made structures, is our consciousness. Our hands just follow the instructions that our minds draw up.
So this sets up a very clear hierarchy, a kind of creative pyramid. At the very top, you have consciousness. It's the source, it dreams up a structure. And that structure then acts like a magnet, attracting the specific energy it needs. In this model, consciousness is absolutely king.
All right, so if our consciousness creates human structures, that brings up an even bigger question. What about everything else? What about the natural world? What is the ultimate consciousness behind the entire universe? This leads us straight to the central, most important claim of this entire framework. And here is the pivotal question that this whole argument has been building towards. If consciousness is the first cause of everything, what is the first consciousness?
And the text doesn't leave you guessing. It provides a very direct, very simple answer.
The author's answer is that the ultimate consciousness of the universe is God. In this framework, that single answer is meant to solve every puzzle. It simplifies all complexity and points to one single source for all of existence. Now, with that ultimate source identified, the framework shifts from being a philosophy to being a practice. The author lays out a very specific path for how a person should live their life based on this conclusion. And the core idea becomes this simple instruction: revere God and walk God's way. The author presents this as the one and only true path, calling it the Great Way to Heaven.
Naturally, if there's a great way, then what about all the other ways? Well, the text defines any other path, any theory, or any group that doesn't follow that core rule as a side door evil way. And the language used in the source material is pretty strong, describing these alternatives as superfluous tumors on humanity that are meant to eventually be removed.
And this brings us to the final part of the framework. The author uses this core belief as a kind of universal litmus test, a simple way to judge absolutely everything and everyone. And this test creates a very stark black and white worldview. If a person, an idea, or anything else reveres God and follows the way, it's judged as true, good, and beautiful. If it doesn't, it's judged as false, evil, and ugly. According to the author, there is absolutely no middle ground. And just to be clear, this isn't just about personal choices. The text says this test should be applied universally to individuals, sure, but also to scientific theories, to entire countries, to political parties, and even to other religions. So what's the ultimate goal here? What's the payoff for following this path so strictly? The text claims that by focusing your consciousness in this very specific way, you can actually transform your own structure, achieve a higher state of being, and finally reach what the author calls the ideal shore.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. How do these all-encompassing belief systems, ones that have an answer for everything, ultimately shape our entire perception of reality, from the things we decide are beautiful to the very definition of what is moral?